everybody. Welcome to Wrestling Travels Lockdown Sessions, kind of an unplugged lockdown sessions because I lost my green screen. But we're going to go with a nice, like I said, unplugged background. We are brought to you each and every week. Every time I do this, we're brought to you by our good friends, Wrestle Merch Central. They are the United Kingdom and Europe's biggest hub for all things pro wrestling. We just had the Hall of Fame, British Bulldog. Go there for exclusive merch. British Bulldog. C.W. Anderson is on there now. Adam Bomb, Rob Van Dam, Chronic, everything you want. Wrestling Travel is on there. Get your Wrestling Travel merch right there. But speaking of things that are available in the United Kingdom, I'm very happy to welcome professional wrestler Cayman Carlisle to the show. Cayman, welcome, my friend.
Hi, Justin. Thanks very much for having me.
This is an interview about 10 years in the making, I feel like.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long time coming, and I must admit I'm quite stoked that it's finally happening.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and I know you are. When I first started this, you were one of the first people that came out and helped us in 2020 when we did the virtual WrestleMania pub crawl with all of the money going to the Red Cross. And I'm happy to let you know that we raised nearly $3,500, thanks in part to you.
No, great.
Red Cross during the pandemic. And I always say, some people think $3,500 doesn't sound like a whole lot, but multiply that by 100, because at that point in time, and still to this day, some people still don't know, is your next paycheck coming or not? A lot of people, I always say this business, not only the talent in, but the fans are always some of the most supportive and giving people on the planet. So thank you for helping us out.
If I can be of help, it's not a problem in the end. In the end, like you touched on it just there, the community it bands together so much in time of need, and especially with the product that we bring out, it really does bring people together. So if I'm a part of that, I'm happy.
And we'll get to this a little bit later, but I'll touch on it now. We've seen that during this pandemic, specifically over there in the UK, you guys have been locked down and locked down and locked down. In fact, I think your next time you go on lockdown, they're just going to call it a beat down. So that's probably in very poor taste. I apologize. But we've proved that wrestling fans are absolutely 100% part of that show.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
It's tough. It was tough watching it with no fans for a while during the lockdown. But let's back way up. How long have you been in the wrestling business, Cayman?
I thought, hand on heart, it was 7 years, until a conversation with a fellow wrestler of mine that I know quite well. And it turns out this year will be my 8th year. So I'm feeling old. Reality kicks in when I'm coming up to a decade. It's a bit, I'm feeling old.
That's good though, man. As long as you feel good, it's okay to feel old. What got you in when you were a young Cayman Carlisle? What are your first memories of watching it on TV? Who do you watch? Who do you see that just captivates you and you're like, man, I got to do this?
So for me, getting started in wrestling, it was very, I think, different to a lot of people I know. I can't hand on heart say that I've been one of the guys that from the earliest age of like 3-4 year old grew up watching wrestling and was just absolutely bang, there it was there, it was ingrained into them. For me, it didn't come as early. For me, it was a lot later. For me, I think the first sort of time that wrestling became apparent to me was around about the biggest storyline I can remember at that time was when we had Edge and Kane, and we had Paul Bearer, and Edge and Kane was in this massive storyline where it was kidnapping Paul Bearer, and it was just, and for me, that was the first time I can remember physically seeing it. Like, and it wasn't the fact that it sort of grabbed me and captivated me, and it was just, that's my first recollection of seeing wrestling. I was never into it in the Attitude Era. I've come into that a lot more recently, and the wrestling itself came along to me really by chance, because I'd never been sporty, never been physically active. I mean, I did some martial arts when I was younger. I did karate at a very young age, which I'll be honest, didn't really enjoy. I just did it because it was something to do. And the story of how I actually got into starting wrestling was, it ended up in a supermarket. Of all places, it was a supermarket. I was in a supermarket. I was stood doing what all 15, 16-year-old boys do, stood at the end of the checkout with my phone, not helping my mum pack. And I just looked down, and there was a leaflet of a wrestling promotion at the bottom of the till for people that was just handing them out. And I just looked at it for something to look at. And I was like, oh, I've seen wrestling on TV. Cool. I looked at it. It was a show. And then on the reverse, there was a training school.
Wow.
So I looked at the address of the training school, and I was like, wait, that's like 30 seconds away from where I live. I was like, what are we doing next Saturday at 6 o'clock? And she was like, I have no idea. So I was like, right, cool, I'm there. So I just went, watched. And that's for me when I was captivated by it. Like, there's so many stories of people watching WWE or the old school WCW. For me, it was never there. But it was that moment when I was like sat in the audience at my very first show that I was just like, that's what I want to do. I want to be in there doing that. And up to this point, I wouldn't have even said boo to a goose. I was so shy, so sort of like in my own element. Like, I hated, even to this day, hate drama, hate performance, hate that sort of, hey, look at me. But I was watching wrestling, and I saw a wrestler over here called Robbie X, and I believe it was an academy or television title match. And just from memory, from so long ago, I watched him run from one end of the ring and just completely bypass the top rope, land on a couple of guys, stand up and just give it. And I was like, hell yeah, cool. I want to be able to do that. And from there, that's the sort of the story of me getting in. It was never at a young age. It was quite later on. I was 16 when I first started training.
And who do you credit for your training?
I've been trained. The first time I stepped into a wrestling ring was a promotion locally to me in West Yorkshire, in England, called UK Wrestling. And I was under the tutelage of Jonathan Sedgwick. I had trainers such as Mustafa Khan. I branched out over the years. I've been trained by numerous people. I've done numerous seminars over the years with tons of great wrestlers. I've had British legend Johnny Saint. We've had Jay Lethal come over. So, excuse me, we've had numerous people come into the promotion to help out. But the first guy to help me actually break into wrestling and help me take my first bumps was Jonathan Sedgwick at UK Wrestling. And still to this day, I still wrestle month in, month out. You know, post pandemic, it's always been at UK Wrestling is where I'd found my home really when it comes to wrestling.
I do remember now. It was tough because obviously for the last year, there hasn't been shows, but there was a teacher versus student feud with you and Jonathan Sedgwick, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Which was awesome because I got to see a little heel Cayman Carlisle, which I loved.
I can't lie. Heel Cayman Carlisle is just where I'm at. I loved the storyline with Jonathan Sedgwick in the teacher versus student rivalry because it was just, for me, it was exactly that. Like on a personal standpoint, like from the story previously of sitting in the crowd and watching it, and then now being a part of it, and coming sort of 180 at that point, about 7 years on, having a teacher versus student rivalry where I just wanted to kick the living, can we swear on here? Absolute kick the living shit out of him. And it worked. Like, it really, really worked because there was so much involved with it. And every time we get in the ring, for me personally, it's just like there's a chemistry there. And I think that is because he's the first person that sort of got me in the business. And I'm at that stage now where it's about time that sort of student surpasses the trainer, and it's just trying to get. But there's always going to be that sort of that underlying personal story rivalry there between us, I think, inside and outside of the ring.
There's a comfort level
of
being in the ring with somebody that you absolutely 100% trust, and they trust you, and now you guys can just elevate. And I'm not saying that, we don't trust when we get in the ring all the time, but there's when you actually know somebody and you haven't just met them 2 hours before and go, hey, let's kind of go over things. One thing I want to touch on before I forget while it's in my head, you guys have not had live professional wrestling happening for a while. I know Future Shock had done something in the fall, but with the pandemic, you talked about being in the crowd at an independent show. People that are a little like, hey, I've never been to wrestling, I've watched it on TV. Talk to me about, because I know what I want them to hear from you, going to an independent show and sitting in the crowd, even if you're one of 5 people or one of 500, that up close and intimate thing that you get at an independent wrestling. Sure, I'm not going to see The Rock wrestling, but I'm going to see a lot of things. Talk to me about, if I'm a fan, why should I go to independent wrestling?
Well, I mean, everyone knows how wrestling is there's like 2 or 3 main companies in wrestling, isn't there? One in particular, and everyone knows who they are. And I think if you're a wrestling fan, for you don't really care what you see as long as you see what you like. So I think, like with myself, I found out that there was a training school and a show really local to me at an age where I didn't know what wrestling was, or really wasn't too much into it. So for people who know what wrestling is, know what it's about, it's important, in my opinion, to go and watch the independent shows, because you have that more interactive feel. You're in a position where you're not sat 3 miles back trying to just get a glimpse of what somebody kind of looks like, because you can't see them over signs and 1,000 other people. The fact that you're in a small building, whether it be like for us over here, some of our shows are in working men's clubs, small bars. We've got some that are in churches, in community centres, in town halls, in storage units. Like, the diversity, I don't think I know anywhere where there's another sort of spot or form where it can be in so many different venues and places, but all be the same thing. And I think that's, you've got that sort of personal touch because you are so close to the wrestlers, and you are seeing exactly what you've seen on TV. You've seen it on the internet, you've seen it everywhere. And you sort of feel a little bit more connected to them because you've got that sort of that more line of sight. You've got the heels looking into your soul and just wishing that you weren't there. Like, and you're like, oh, you feel it because it's real and it's raw. And I think that's probably one of the benefits of the independent, smaller scene, because you feel a lot more engrossed in the product when you are so close, so intimate. And I think it just feels a lot more real when you are so close.
Yeah, and you touched on it too. When you're a fan at a small show like that, you are part of the show. If I boo, heel Cayman Carlisle, you might point at me, yell at me, threaten me. I'm part of the show. And plus, you got your intermissions, and I'm going to get a chance to go up and talk to you. And people might go, hey, I don't know. Oh, my goodness. We got the automatic lights here. And in a flash, I'm back at you. I forgot about that. I got to move around a little bit here. But I get a chance at intermission to talk to you. And I might not have never heard of any of the guys on there, but I guarantee I will have heard of some of the guys they've trained with. and everything. And I might be the one going, hey, I saw that guy in a church show, and now he's on my local television 2 years later. But even for people like you said, might not be a fan of pro wrestling, give it a try. It's an entertaining night. And we all need to support each other.
100%. I mean, for people that don't like or watch wrestling, you're never going to convince them to go to a wrestling show, because in the end, if it's not their ball game, they're never going to go. I'm not a football fan. And, you know, for years, family have tried to get me to be into football, and it just never worked. So I'll never go to a football game. So you're never going to try and convince people who just really don't like wrestling to go watch a wrestling show. But people who genuinely do like wrestling but haven't ever thought about going out and watching wrestling, they're just happy enough sitting and watching TV. Personally, get out there and watch it, because it's such a different atmosphere. It feels so different to be, even like you said, even if it's in such a really small building with like 7 or 8 people, it's a really, really quiet show. But the fact is, the wrestlers will work as hard for 5 people as they would for 5,000 people. You're not going to get a worse off deal because you're one of 6 people sat in a crowd. You'll get exactly the same as everyone else would, if not more, because let's face it, who doesn't want to work 10 times harder for the 6 people? Because what's harder to work? 5,000 people that are kind of loud, or 6 people that really genuinely just want to out noise each other?
And then here's my public service announcement that comes from myself, JC, and Cayman Carlisle. Ladies, if your boyfriend is into pro wrestling and it comes back and he's going to go to a show, trust me, go with him, give it a shot. You may not like what you see on TV, but it's a totally different animal live and in person. So at least give it a chance.
Please give it a chance.
It's a good family fun night out. And, you know, you're going to see people working hard. You're going to laugh. You're going to cheer. You're going to boo. I feel like you and I could go on a world tour of let's promote independent wrestling.
More than likely.
What? So now I'm in the U.S., no secret. And this isn't going to air for another few weeks, as we are on the 1st of May, 2021. What's the outlook right now in the United Kingdom for live wrestling with fans?
It's on the rise. We're getting there now. It's sort of within touching distance, and I'm feeling that now because I've got promoters that are sort of like starting to send messages. So it's the whole, oh, hi, we've got a show possibly booked on this day. I was wondering if. So that's nice again, because it's gone from like complete radio silence to a point now where it's within touching distance. We're there now. I think one of my closest shows may be either this month or next month. So we're almost there now, which is good, because I'm back in training myself, and it feels good to sort of get back to it after so long. It really does.
Yeah, and knocking that rust off. There's got to be a lot of rust just from, not only could you not get in the ring, but you guys couldn't even get to gyms for a while, could you, to work out?
Yeah, gyms closed. We I am one of the serial start and stop gym goers. There's no secret. I mean, watch any of my YouTube videos. I'm no Dwayne Johnson. I'm no John Cena. I almost at one point, I didn't ever have a 6-pack. I had a keg. Like, that's how my physique went. I think the last time I had a 6-pack was when I was 15 years old. So, but I start and stop. And that's my own mentality. I need a breakthrough. But we did start, myself and my partner, we started the gym just before. And when I say just before, I mean 24 hours before the second lockdown. So we didn't expect it to just happen as it did. So we joined the gym. I was like, right, let's go again tomorrow. I was like, oh, okay, we can't. It's shut now. Luckily, we're not carrying on paying for it or whatnot, but it's that principle of like, we've got his heads in gear. We was like, right, cool, gym time, get back going. Going to be doing shows soon. Let's get to work, and just complete, not to like 100 to 0 so quick overnight. I was like, great.
Now, did you get a chance to, at least during this lockdown period, do you go back on YouTube or the network and watch some classic stuff, or what did you?
I do. I must admit, like, when it comes to watching matches, it's so difficult for me because I still feel like I'm one of them where I never, as a kid, like I said before, I never sat and watched it growing up. I had it recently, more recent, from like the ages of 16 upwards. And some of the older stuff I do love watching, but I don't have as much wrestling knowledge as a lot of people do. So it's like I get a lot of sort of funny looks now and then, and it's like, okay, well, are you really a wrestler? Well, yeah, I love the business. I love what the business is. I love being a part of the business, and I love everything that comes with it. Yeah, maybe I don't know exactly at what time of the match and at what day, year, month, second of the match the guy got pinned. Like some guys, like they know everything about everything. If I throw a pay-per-view name out, they will tell me how many matches were on the card, who won each match, at what time of the show they was on. It was like, right, I love wrestling, but I'm not there with it. But for me, it's guys like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart that I watch. You know, controversial as it may, my favorite match I've ever watched in my entire life, WrestleMania 25, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. There's going to be people who will watch this and just be like, oh my God, you don't even know what wrestling is. That's not the best. This is the best. This is the best. But it's like, it's wrestling. It's personal. It's personal. You can choose what you want. If you think that's the best match you've ever seen, that's your prerogative. And I had such an emotional attachment to that match just for watching it. I was like, yeah, hands down, the best match I've ever seen.
People will often ask me about one of my favorite matches, and I always will go in the top 5, 10, top 3. Is your doorbell on fire, huh?
My doorbell is ringing. I don't know how to tackle this right now.
Right. Go answer it. We're live.
I'll just tell them to go away.
Yeah. So hey, we're live here. You know, this will really test my editing skills. So if you're seeing this, you know how great my editing skills are. But you know, can't control Cayman Carlisle getting somebody at his door. So we're talking favorite wrestling matches. And the one that I always get and Cayman will miss out on this, Nick Bockwinkel versus Curt Hennig, 1986. You're back.
I'm back. I had to let the girlfriend in. I'd locked her out. My keys were in the door, so she's real pissed.
Well, then we should have not answered. We should have kept going. So I just told everybody who's still watching that we'll test my editing skills on this. If they're seeing this, then I wasn't good editing. No, one of my matches that I'll always say, because I'm much older,
not by much,
been in it a longer time, but Nick Bockwinkel versus Curt Hennig, 1986, for the AWA, which is my favorite promotion. It went to an hour-long time limit draw. One of my favorite matches, and Curt Hennig, as you know, Mr. Perfect. So, funny story about that, Cayman. I looked for that match. I remember seeing it, and I tried to find it. It wasn't on YouTube or anything. So I started getting into Facebook going, hey, has anybody got this match? Do they have a VHS copy? And some guy goes, it's the first match on the second disc of the Mr. Perfect DVD. So it had been sitting on my shelf for years. And they got a nice, crisp DVD quality match. But so if you have that, that's one that I highly suggest watching. What do you think of cinematic matches? Did you get a chance? Everybody went gangbusters over the AJ Styles Undertaker Boneyard match. What is your thoughts?
It's a hard one, again, because of some of my opinions on wrestling and how long I've watched it, what I watch, and all this sort of stuff. It's difficult because people will probably say that I've got no right to comment. But for me, I liked the matches, but for me, I'm happy it all been done in the ring. I am. I mean, it for me, it's so hard to explain because there's nothing about it that I really, really just think, oh God, I hate that. I just wish they'd stop doing that. It just, for me, doesn't feel like I'm watching wrestling, because wrestling itself it's in a ring. It's it's there. Like, yes, there's outside interferences. There's like, you know, they get out the ring, they go backstage, they come back. It's the ring is still there. Whereas if it's a cinematic match and it's just all done in sort of a Firefly Funhouse, or it's done in a swamp, or it's done in a whatever AJ Styles Undertaker was, it was cool. Loved watching it. But for me personally, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the cinematic matches.
I heard it best described the Boneyard match as it was like watching a really cool fight scene out of a movie, which is totally different than the wrestling that we're used to. And I'm going to correct you. I will do the same thing you do. I will say, hey, who am I to say anything? You know, people will say X, Y, and Z, but I'm giving you, you know, guys that have been in the business and have taken a bump. Yeah, you have earned the right to your opinion. And I know you very well. You're just like me. I'm not saying I have my opinion. Other people have their opinions. I don't shoot down other people's opinions. Sometimes I do. When they start talking about the night of the death matches, that gets me all freaking hot under the old collar. Okay, so
preaching though, isn't there? There's a difference between preaching and, you know, if somebody says, "Do you like cinematic matches?" and I say no, there's no reason why that should have to be like a massive, huge argument of why that person's wrong or right. It's just, if don't ask the question if you don't want the answer. So like, you're doing the great thing. You're listening to the answers and etc. Whereas other people in the business will just be like, "Oh yeah, but it brings everything out and blah blah blah," and you're thinking, just shut up. My opinion is my opinion, isn't it? And you're right. You are so right.
I don't like death, but you know, to me, a death match or a steel cage match, should be done the blow off for the end of the feud. Mm-hmm. Now we've worked to something. We're telling this story, and now, okay, we've gotten to this point. Like, these guys have to be in a steel cage. They have to be in an Indian strap match or a dog collar match or whatever it is, lumberjack match, the gimmick match. Like, we've worked to this point. Like this. But when I see promotions doing the night of the death match, like, just, hey, it's going to be me versus you, and we haven't wrestled in 6 years, but now we're going to be in this barbed wire steel cage, and it's like, it doesn't make sense to me. But I always will end it or preface it by saying, if it's putting butts in the buckets, it's selling tickets, and who am I? I mean, hey, people love it, but to me, it's not my cup of tea, but I don't shit on anybody else's cup of tea. You know,
no, exactly.
There we go. The clapper. It worked. Talk to me. There's all kinds of timers in this building. I'm going to have to figure this out for the summer. Talk to me about Blackheart Wrestling. How did that come about? The version that you can tell without making anybody angry, but
do you know what? It was actually it's quite amicable, if I'm honest. The way it came about, that me and two of my closest friends just decided, one who is wrestling in the business and is a wrestler, the other who loves wrestling, complete wrestling nerd, has done a lot of GM work, announcer work, sort of commentary work, but never really made it into the ring. Just prefers the outside of the ring side of things. So you've got myself, Henry Winter, who is my wrestling best friend, and tag team partner, second half of the collective, and Lawrence Breeze, who is also part of the business. All three of us, we just decided that it was time that we tried it for ourselves, because being in the business for as long as I have, Henry Winter's not been in the business as long, but still has a good few years under his belt now. And we just thought, you know what? There are places around the UK that don't have access to wrestling as easy. And we have, between all three of us, such a good mindset on the psychology and the creative side of wrestling that was just like, well, let's just give it a go. Let's just try. Let's just see what happens. in the end, but we're not going to do it half-assed. We're going to make sure that if we're making a show, we're booking a venue, we're doing the ring hire, we're doing the lights, the camera, the sound. We're not just going to think, right, let's just 3 marks get a ring and put a show on in someone's back garden. That's not what we wanted to do. We want to make sure we was doing it legit. So that's what we did. We decided to set it up. Lawrence and Henry Winter decided they was going to set the business up before I joined with another wrestler. Again, there's no animosity there. It was just a case of it just didn't work. They just didn't, financially, it didn't go anywhere. They did one show. The show went well, but from then, it just didn't go anywhere. So then about a year later, I said, look, I'm in a position where I'd like to come on board. Is it possible for me to join up? And obviously at this point, being 3 best friends, it was like, oh, yeah, sure, go for it. And from there, it just started. And we've got his own contract with a venue in Guiseley, in a part of Leeds in the UK. So we run out of Guiseley Theatre. And before lockdown, we had just the one show, which we called our Rebirth show, which is the full show's on YouTube. So if anyone wants to go check it out, it's all there. Myself and Henry Winter are part of that show. We are on as a tag team match there. And we thought, you know what, let's just give it everything. We booked the ring hire and everything. And it was a huge success. Like the first show, like we was pretty chuffed because we thought, what do we expect? How many people's going to turn up? And, you know, is it going to be accepted? What the crowd's going to be like? And no, it went really, really well. The first show, we made a bit of money out of it and we put that straight back into getting ready for the second show, which eventually we'll get to have once all the restrictions have finished.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm about halfway through it. You're gracious enough to give me that link, and man, I like it. Busy. I wish I wanted to. I felt bad. You asked me if I watched it, and I was like, man, all I want to do is stop everything and watch it, but I just didn't.
Life is hectic.
Real life gets in the way sometimes, so I'm excited about it. So, where would you say Blackheart Wrestling is based? I don't know my geography of the UK that well.
So Blackheart Wrestling is based through the venue at Guiseley in Leeds. So that's where we are West Yorkshire based. So we're based in Guiseley. The venue is Guiseley Theatre in West Yorkshire in the UK. That's where we operate. That's where we're going to do every single one of our shows. So we're not sort of like, we don't take our shows to different venues each month. We are due to strictly straight from that particular venue every month when we get, you know, lockdown permitting.
A good segue, as I'm going to hit you with the surprise little section here. Let's talk about Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling, PPW.
Yeah. So
we talked about. Did we talk about this in the interview? And now I've just decided in my head, why not? What year was it? Refresh me. 2014, 15?
No. 2016. 2016.
Yep, it was 2016. So myself, former professional wrestler, Cayman Carlisle, current professional wrestler out of the UK, and our buddy from Sydney, Australia, referee Christian Todd, all found ourselves in the United States at the same time. And we went over to our good friends over at Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling, PPW, and they were very gracious.
Very.
Unfortunately, at that time, they needed the referee more than they needed in-ring talent. So, but I got to watch you on a couple, before the match, before the show started, get on there and bust it out in the ring. And shout out to our good friend Paul Bowe. But how cool was that to catch? We got to catch a few American shows, and
that was absolutely great. Like that was for me one of the highlights of the trip that I had over to America, on the basis that up to that point, my wrestling career had been completely UK based forever and always. It was just bang straight UK, never been anywhere else. And so when I went to America and I ended up coming across PPW, it was great for them. Like you said, they were so gracious. They let me they said to me, look, if you want to go on the show, we'll give you that shot, but the conditions are like, if someone drops out, if someone gets injured, you're not just going to hand it. I was like, absolutely not a problem. And the fact that like I got to take some bumps, in a ring in a different country with people I didn't know, in front of people I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't make it onto a show, but at the same time, that energy was still there. The energy of being backstage before a show. You know, you're seeing the hustle and bustle. And let's face it, come on, the mark in me came out because, hell, I was on the same show. I was there at the same show behind the curtain with people who I had seen on the big promotions. Like we had Eric Young. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shane Douglas.
Yep.
Yeah. We had Carlito. We had the Wild Samoans. Hell, there are 4 people that I would have never, ever have come into contact with, probably in that small space of time that I was in America, over in the UK. Like, I know we've had a few big names over on our shows in the UK, but in that one show, it was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, over the 2 or 3 show period that I was there, it was crazy. It was great just to sort of, the mark in me was just sat there like, oh my God, that's Eric Young. Just like, you know, because in the end, yeah, we do what we do, but we still admire the people that are way, way higher up than we are ourselves at the moment. In the end, you know, it's a ladder. We're all working to get to the top of that ladder. So the people that are at the top of that ladder, we have the utmost respect and admiration for. So yeah, I was sat there like a child, like, oh my God.
Yeah, we're in really close though. You know, we're obviously near Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania at those shows, and you got Alpha Senior, Alpha Junior. You know, the NOIA family is awesome. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because I know it's when you're young, it's disappointing that you don't get on the show. But the fact that I knew that you were getting some backstage experience and just kind of seeing how it's done differently. Of course, I got to see Alpha Junior smash our good friend Christian Todd, and I love it every year when that comes up in Facebook memories. Our good friend Donnie was there.
Yeah.
Donnie, military veteran, tough as nails, but giggling like a schoolgirl watching Christian get stomped by Alpha. But yeah, Carlito, and dude, you know what the best thing about that? I got to ask you, when Carlito showed up on Raw this year, I got to think that you, me, and Christian were one of the few people that were surprised. Everybody's like, oh man, he's really jacked up. I'm like, yeah, that was our words in 2016.
Yeah, we saw him, we were just like, oh my God, there's no way he gets like that just from spitting apples. Definitely not.
Well, he's putting in the hard work. And I forgot you asked Shane Douglas, because I was going to ask you, Shane Douglas, ECW, the franchise, in Pennsylvania, getting to see him. And who else? You said Eric Young.
Eric Young.
That's huge. What was kind of cool for me, and you guys were doing stuff backstage, but watching Eric Young talk to Hall of Famer Alpha, the original Samoans, was pretty cool. And how great is Paul Bowe?
Such a great guy.
You know, and they're struggling over here just like the UK. Pennsylvania has been shut down. They haven't been able to run a show. So if you're watching this, Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling, PPW, I know they're doing podcasts, kind of best of everything they could do. One of the greatest indie promotions that I've seen. Just really, you know, and what people can say, well, what's a great indie promotion? Let's put it this way. We were treated very well, and they were very welcoming, very accommodating. And you know, they let a Christian get stomped. So he's the next one I got to get on here. We got to set up the timing right. So a couple more questions. I want to be very respectful of not just your time, but everybody watching this. And believe me, we'll have a part 2. I love the part ones are great because we get all the, hey, how did you get into business? We got like that foundation laid. Now I'm hoping the next time I talk to you, you've got a few more shows because I'd love to catch up after some of these shows this summer and see how it went.
Yeah.
Because you haven't, you know, you said you got into wrestling late. You started watching. Can you give me, like, what would be, in your opinion, like your top 4 wrestlers? This is my Mount Rushmore question, disguised as not saying Mount Rushmore, but if you had a gun to your head, and you had to pick your Mount Rushmore 4 wrestlers of all time. Yep, and you'd have to pick them. You can't, and this is tough because you can go 1, 2, 3, but when you get to that 4th, you start thinking, and this doesn't have to be anybody that's on TV. I mean, heck, you could pick Jonathan Sedgwick if you needed to.
I think he'd like that if I put him up with 2 of his idols, definitely. But are we judging this based on like what I think that character in ring, just overall, like how I like watching? Cool.
Your opinion, no explanation needed.
Without a doubt, hands down, Shawn Michaels, number 1. Like, I can't say I've ever watched a Shawn Michaels match that I personally haven't just thought he just stole the show with. 2, I want to say Bret Hart, because again, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were 2 that was when I did start watching wrestling and I did get into it. They were the ones that I most tried to aspire to be like. So the technical ability of Bret with the sort of the character and the high fly, as well as the technical of Shawn. So I'd say probably number 2, Bret. 3, Eddie Guerrero. Yeah, Eddie, for me, character-wise, just awesome. Yeah, you get to like 4 now, and you're thinking, oh Christ.
And I can just see the number of wrestlers.
I'd say number 4. Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Eddie Guerrero. This is tough because
you know what? We'll end this conversation and you'll think of 4 different ones that you should add.
As soon as the call ends, I'll literally be like, oh yeah, that guy too. He's real cool.
I think going to take a lot of heat on social media for leaving out X, Y, and Z. Ric Flair, because I know, in the end, even when he did the matches at a later age, where you could see him just dying through the matches, the guy puts in so much more than I think anybody else will ever put into a match, because you can see in his face, like, he's absolutely like the famous Shawn Michaels Flair match at Mania. Mania 24.
Yeah, you could see, like, regardless of the match itself, you could see in his last 30 seconds in that match, like, how much that, even though it wasn't his last match, how much that match meant to him. And I think, like, all of that, you can see it in every match he does. So I think Flair's got to be in the Mount Rushmore without it being around Mount Rushmore. So that leaves 5. 5, I'm going to have to go.
Oh, you're going bonus. I'd said top 4.
Oh, you said top 4, didn't you? Cool. That's
fine.
Mount
Rushmore's only got 4 presidents on it, son.
That shows exactly how much.
You're in the UK. That's all right. You got a 5?
I was gonna go with Randy Orton on the basis that, like, character-wise and how he conducts himself in the ring, when you watch him on the shows, like, he's been the same for so long and carried it so well for so long. I think it's difficult to probably say that there's so many people that you could put in with the 4 I just mentioned. There's probably people shouting at me saying, oh my God, there's so many people that you could have put at your number 5. But in the end, for me, visually watching matches and watching shows and seeing Randy in his matches, I just think, like, he commits 100% to every match. And I love watching his matches, 100%.
Now, I have never, ever, and I hope he never sees this, but I hope if he does see this, he listens to this entire sentence I'm about to say. I've never really been on board with Randy Orton. And I don't know why. Sometimes I would say I didn't think his mic skills were that good, and then I would watch it and go, What was I thinking? So I was never really on board with him. But at the end of 2020, our Wrestling Travel Year-End Awards, he was hands down my Wrestler of the Year. Because look what he did this past year.
Yeah.
He put the company on his back. And I know he wrestled Drew a ton of times, but then he was with Bray. He was with it was like, hey, I'm Randy Orton, and whatever you need, I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And he carried that company. And I'm not saying he hasn't carried it before. He's not still carrying it now, but it just, for this guy, when you've been in the business for a long time, and you just, for whatever reason, I don't like him. 2010, this is how you know somebody's good in the business. And I know a lot of people don't like this guy, but The Miz.
Yeah.
The Miz was champion in 2010, right around WrestleMania 27, I believe. And I'm watching it, Cayman, and I'm going, I freaking hate that guy. I hate that guy. And then I realized that guy's doing his job. That guy's got me hook, line, and sinker.
So underrated. The guy can work like hell. But again, I sort of felt really sorry for him this most recent with his newest title reign, and it just gone. I personally, if that was myself, and like you knew you was good at your job and you kept getting the opportunities and then they were taken, so eventually you've got to start taking it personally. Like, I understand it's a product and whatnot, but at the same time, like, there's an element of like, Jesus, guys, come on, like, I can do this, just give me that chance.
He reminds me a lot of his rival Cena. Like, anything that I see, Cayman's getting a phone call. He reminds me of the guy that, hey, you see him off camera and has all other stuff. Like, he is a professional. He is somebody that I want to say gift about. His Intercontinental title reign, he put the IC back in Intercontinental Championship. So he's awesome. So my final question, because I know your phone's ringing, and the beard is coming in nicely, my friend.
Thank you. This is going 24 years in the making.
I like it. You see, mine's got we got the gray shining through. I'm going to have to paint it again here in the next couple of weeks. Final question, most important question.
Yeah.
As a fan watching this, where can I follow Cayman Carlisle on social media? Where can I follow Blackheart Wrestling? Is there merch for sale? Give it all.
Give it all. So basically, we Blackheart Wrestling, we do have the socials. We are in the process of setting up Twitter. So we don't have it at the moment. So we are getting the Twitter sorted soon. Instagram, we have an Instagram and a Facebook. So it's Blackheart Wrestling UK on both. Myself, if you want to follow my guys, you've got myself at Cayman_Carlisle on Twitter. You've got, actually, I think it's exactly the same on all of my socials. Cayman_Carlisle. I try not to complicate things, because if I start doing, I'll forget each one. So if I stick them all at the same, I know what I'm doing.
Smarter than me, because I'm dumb at social media and I've got 27 different handles, and now I think about changing them and then I'm like, nope, they're ingrained in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do that for my bank password and everything, if everybody wants to know that. Once you have one of my passwords, I'm pretty sure you have them all. So awesome. Cayman, I know we're going to do this again. You've been a great friend for a long time. And even though you're telling me that you're closing in on a decade, I believe you're just getting started. I'm hoping that you wish you the best of luck. I know we'll stay in touch behind the scenes, but I can't wait to talk to you. Maybe let's do something in the fall. Let's see how the summer of love goes over in the United Kingdom. I want to find out about it. Stay tuned to Wrestling Travels Twitter, because as soon as Blackheart Wrestling gets a Twitter, we're going to follow it and share. So thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. Like we said earlier, it's been a long time coming, and it's nice that we can do this on, like I say, a friendship level as well as a professional level. So I'm looking forward to part 2.
Me too. Thank you, sir.